Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm so glad to see all of you again. Well, today we're going to be touching a topic that I think it's very relevant for all of us in this day and age because we're all trying to help somebody else, but we tend to forget to help ourselves. So, with that said, today's topic is going to be led by Kara. She is our business coach, but she's more than that. She has so much more knowledge than just the business coaching side. She has some medicine for meat. How do you call it?
For your meat suits to make sure your
Meat suit.
hormone soup doesn't get spicy.
There we go. We also have Irina Pornova with us. She's our manifestation coach, and Bruno, our email copywriter genius here. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you.
Yeah. So the conversation today is around trust and support, and that is kind of because of what we were talking about last week, right? It sort of came up into the conversation, and I wanted us to be able to really dive deep. So where I want to start us with is a little clarity on exactly what is trust? How the trust thing? And I want to give you a practical tool right away as we launch into this. The fastest way to build, establish, or repair trust is to make and keep commitments. It's really that simple. And the first person that you need to be able to make that trust with is yourself. You have to support yourself and start making commitments at the very base level of your meat suit. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you resting? Are you moving your body? Because that's the first place it typically goes when life likes to life all over our plans. So I want to open that up to everybody. I'm going to go to Bruno first. What does that make you think of?
Oh, I love that. It makes me think of a very good quote that I love, which is like, like shouting affirmations in the mirror is not enough. You gotta have something that like kind of backs it up. It's like, that totally resonates with me because, for example, you can't trust somebody else if you don't trust yourself, right? It's like you are your biggest testimonial in life, right? Legitimately, like you're your biggest testimonial. Like there's no point in saying something that you don't kind of act like, right? Because it's not that people are smarter than you, it's just like people are just not stupid, right? Because we tend to believe like, oh, the majority of people sometimes believe like, oh, but like that person is so much smarter than me. I think that's why kind of people listen to the news, is because like, oh, the news know better than me. You kind of see it's just propaganda, right? But yeah, there's no point in shouting affirmations in the mirror if you don't act on them, right? And you gotta change your energy, and you gotta change the way you kind of speak and behave. If you start to intentionally act the way you want to become, and you trust yourself enough to actually become that, it's gonna come faster to you than you expected, right? And yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
I love that. So what I heard there as like the shouting affirmations at yourself in the mirror is like making the commitment, but if you don't go act on them, then you're not keeping the commitment.
That's like basic, right? That's that's the bare minimum.
Yeah.
If you know how to do it right, you should totally do it. But it's like when you back up with hard work, and because like the shouting affirmations is a smart work, right? That's the subconscious reprogramming, but there has to be some hard work into it. And if you have that smart work and that hard work,
yeah. I love that. Irina, I see you nodding. Tell me what that bringing up for you.
No, I'm just like in my la la land. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck am I going to talk about. I'm being honest, right? I'm being transparent. But what I wanted to say, what comes from me, it's like I always come with the trust to the people. Why? Because I measure everybody against myself. Because I know I bring the trust to any kind of relationship. So I trust the person until they prove me wrong. So that's my approach. And I think it's simple, it's straightforward. Just, like show me what you got. And if you show me what I did not actually expect of you, of course, no hard feelings. I just move on, and nothing personal. It's all business.
I love that.
I love that. So
You trust yourself enough to know that you can trust them, whatever it is they show you, whether it is that you can trust them in that arena or you cannot trust them in that arena. You trust yourself to recognize that. That's brilliant. Yeah. Johnny, what's that bring up for you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And it just saves me from the headache.
Yes. Believe them. I like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I agree. One of them is when somebody tells you something, even if they may say it jokingly, believe them. Because if they're saying that joke, there's something inside of them that is actually pushing them that way. So although you may see no signs, just be careful. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, don't trust anybody. Just be careful, because if they're making that type of joke, there's something behind their mindset that is telling them that that's okay.
Yeah.
One. And two, I am a big believer that we should give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Okay? So when you meet somebody, or at least the way that I am, when I meet somebody, their scorecard with me starts at 100. They don't have to earn anything. They don't have to. But here's the thing. The second that they show me otherwise, unfortunately, with me, it doesn't tank to 50%, tanks to 0.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And that's kind of where we got to last week. So what came up for that is, I agree. I think if other people are going to show you their behavior, you have to believe them. But we often think of trust almost like a light switch, right? Like I either trust you or I do not, which is kind of ridiculous in a long going way. Not that you should absolutely trust who they show you to be. But that's like saying, I don't trust my kid because I don't trust my kid with scissors. He's 3. His intent is not to hurt. I trust his intent is not to hurt people. I am also not stupid. And I know that competent-wise, he's just not there with scissors. So I still trust my kid. I just don't trust him with scissors yet. And that's, I think, where it goes back to when we think about trust, we think outside of ourselves when we really need to start with ourselves first. So I'm going to turn it to an old marketing term, right? Like if you're doing your marketing, you want other people to know, like, and trust you, right?
Yes.
That is what you're trying to do with your marketing. If you're not supporting yourself and taking care of the things that you need, how will you be able to trust yourself? Like yourself, know yourself, so they can. What's that bring up for you, Johnny?
For me, it actually brought back a memory, because at the beginning of when I started doing sales back when I was 18 years old, well, I had already heard this, and this is not a paid advertisement. I don't know if you ever heard of the Little Red Book of Sales, written by Jeffrey Gitomer. Love the book. At the beginning, when I read it like 5,000 times, and I was like, seriously? Sounds simple, but I just don't get it. And truly, for years and years and years, I struggled. And it was so simple. Like Kara said, you have to trust yourself. Until I didn't start doing that, nothing happened. Like, people like me. People showed interest in my products and services. Yet, they were not able to see. I was not able to see the sales. And it wasn't until years later until I'm like, I'm just gonna do it, and I'm not gonna care. And I started trusting that I didn't care. Things started happening, and then I started understanding how powerful trust is on not only sales, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Irina?
Now it brought me to my childhood. I remember when my mom, like my mom always like tried to trick me into something. So she would say one thing and then she would never like keep the word just to get her way, whatever she wanted to. So now like with my kids and like sometimes she's like, oh, just tell, like tell him that, like my son is 9. Tell him that it's okay. I said, no, it's not okay because I remember myself being a kid and being like really, trusting whatever she was saying, right? And of course she was thinking she's doing it for my better good. But for me as a child, like you said something, I expect you to deliver it, right? So when she's like, telling me, oh, just tell him that's okay for him not to, like be upset or anything. I said, no, if I'm not going to commit, like you said, if I'm not going to commit to that, I'm not going to tell that because next time he's not going to trust me at all.
That is true.
Yeah. If making and keeping commitments is the fastest way to make and build trust, then making and breaking commitments is the fastest way to break trust. That is.
And not only that, then you get into that vicious cycle of lies. And it's really rough to break free from there.
Yeah. What's that bring up for you, Bruno?
Well, it brings up to me, well, I'm going to touch on a topic that kind of John talked about, which was like kind of like the sadness part, if I'm not mistaken. Well, a lot of people tend to disguise sadness with irony and sarcasm. And a lot of people kind of like when they do that because they don't trust themselves enough that their life is actually that relevant. Talk about the good things, right? Like it's something that's special. So they talk about, so a lot of people, they prefer to stay relevant in their problems because they believe that's the only way people will actually care, right?
Yeah.
And that's not true at all, right? I don't believe that's really true. I think people at one point, with all due respect, they just get tired of the problems because people have problems in their life as well, right? I mean, I don't mind in helping, but if somebody always comes to me with their problems, right, and I'm dealing with my problems, I'm not going to stop taking care of my problems first to take care of your problem, right? You're supposed to take care of your problem first, right? Now that's not. Yeah. Go on.
No, I was gonna say you're supposed to, but most people don't actually do that. They try to help everybody else before they even try to help themselves, because we already know the whole thing that if you're in the airplane and the thing, you start helping your favorite child. Just no, not your favorite child. Just kidding. Just want to see if everybody was awake. You help yourself first, and then you help the other person. But in reality, most people don't do that. What they do is they actually try to help everybody else, and then by the end, when they're depleted and they have no more energy inside of them, they're like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Yeah. Okay, so that's where I'd like to go. If you are thinking about trusting yourself, if you want to make sure that you build yourself up and support yourself, like Bruno was saying, so you can support other people, what are some of the ways that you can go about building that trust with yourself? What are some of the small commitments that you can make and keep for yourself? I'm going to go right back to Bruno.
Number one, for me, the number one thing, keeping the promises you make to yourself. Boom. Straight up.
Yep.
Keeping the promises you make to yourself. If you say you're going to wake up at 5, wake up at 5.
Boom.
Because, like, for example, it like, I swear to God, like, this happened to me this week. Like last week, I was like, like on Monday, I'm going to wake up at 6:30. Actually, yeah, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? So I'm like, well, Wednesday, right? I'm going to wake up at 6:30. But, like Tuesday night, I was having this like conversation with my father, right? And we stayed up until like midnight 30. And I was like, fuck, I'm only going to sleep like I'm not even gonna sleep 6 hours, right? Because I don't just straight go to bed unless I'm really really tired. I don't just go to bed. I click my fingers and I'm asleep, right? Unless I'm a marine who trained himself to do that. But like like so I slept like 5 hours. I swear to God, Wednesday like the right morning, I was like, I don't want to go, right? But another way that you can keep the trust to yourself is like, make sure you don't give yourself a chance to like get back. And one thing that I did, right, is like the day before I was like, I'm gonna make a video about myself, calling myself out. If I don't go, I'm a bitch. I literally did that. It's on my gallery, and I'm like, I just remember making that video. I talked with Irina. I was like, oh no, I made the video. I ain't no bitch. Boom! I get out of the bed. I go and I start moving, and I'm like, okay, that was easy. And once I got home, I was so proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like, if I stayed asleep, I was like, I'd probably just ignore the pain. Now, like, oh, fine, whatever. I'd ignore the pain. It was there, right? And the more you start failing on yourself, right, the more you're gonna do it more and more and more, right? You do it once, you do 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, right? So make sure you keep the promises to yourself, because in the long
yourself.
Completely in the long run, right? It's like, yeah, just literally just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. So, Irina, what are some of the ways that you have established trust with yourself?
That's a good question. I mean, I always trust myself because I pretty much know who I am, and I just appreciate the values that I have, my core beliefs and my integrity. Like, this is something I'm proud of, and I'm not shy to speak about it, because the people who come into my life, they experience it in the first place. So I could say I'm pretty good in terms of trusting myself and trusting everybody else, like I said, unless they prove it wrong. But like you mentioned, I don't usually use that switch from 100, like Johnny said, to 0. No, that's not my personality.
Okay, Johnny, how about you? When it comes to that, how do you make sure you don't turn off your own light switch?
Well, Bruno hit it on the nail, because I do exactly that. I do my best to, and I say do my best because there's times that just today, I took my daughter to eat lunch, and as you all know, I'm a single dad, so I work most evenings, and most kids have their activities on the evenings. So there's times that I'm all the way 45 minutes away from home working, and as I tell my daughter, she's like, but I really want to do this and I really want to do that. And on the other end, me as a father, I'm like, you actually deserve to be there, you actually deserve to do all that, but I can't split myself into two. So today we had that conversation, and that's why when I sit down with my daughter, I tell her exactly what Bruno and Irina said. I tell them the truth, even if it hurts. So then I tell her, okay, what's more important at this point? Is this thing that you really want to do, which you actually do deserve because you're being an amazing kid? Or does it make more sense for me to go and work because we need to make money? She made the hard decision. It pained me. I'm not gonna say it didn't pain me, but reality is that the world is full of choices, and that's one thing that my daughter hates every time I bring it over, because she's like, Dad, you're always talking about choices. And I'm like, yes, because life is gonna give you choices. Life is not bad. Life is wise. Life is never gonna tell you no. It's gonna say you have the yellow brick road or the black brick road. You choose. So that's where my thoughts are when it comes to trusting myself and what do I do. So number one, I do my best to keep with my promises. And second, I say it as it is, even if I have to rip the freaking Band-Aid off.
I love that. That brings up for me, so sometimes we make a commitment to ourselves and we don't keep it. We say we're going to get up at 5, but we don't. We say we're going to clear our email, but we don't. We say any number of things. I'm going to go to bed on time. I'm going to eat fresh vegetables this week. Any number of things. So here's a weird way that you can turn things around in your world that maybe you might not have thought about. To trust yourself, one of the things that you can do is lean on things you're already doing, even if you don't like them. Doom scrolling is a very common thing we hear about, because social media, right? You get home and then and suddenly 4 hours have gone by. You're like, oh, snap. I got things to do. But if you know you're going to do that, and instead of beating yourself up because you're a terrible human being who's been doom scrolling for 4 hours, if you know that when you come home from whatever thing that you do and you're going to pick up your phone and sit down on the couch and that's going to be the thing, then make it a commitment. Commit to doing that. You can even commit to a time, and then you're committing to spending 10 minutes doing that rather than limiting yourself to 10 minutes to doing that. You're supporting yourself in things you're already doing, and every one of those drops is going to build your own trust and your ability to support yourself just a little more. Then you can start taking on the things like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, clearing your email, things of that nature. But I want to go on to other trust, right? So when we talk about it, starts with ourselves and learning to support ourselves so we can trust ourselves to keep commitments to ourselves, because then we know we can keep commitments to other people. But why are some of the reasons we don't trust others? I'd like to go around and just get your thoughts on this. Johnny, go. I know you got answers. Go.
Exactly for the same reason that you just mentioned a second ago. We break those bridges for ourselves. So now, if I cannot commit to X, Y, and Z that I said I was going to do for myself, for nobody else, then how am I going to trust somebody else to do it? That is the number one in my book. The second one, that one is more personal because, as Irina mentioned, yes, I do go from 100 to 0. But the thing is that one thing that I say that I go from 100 to 0 is because I will always give somebody a second choice, a second chance. And then when they break down that second chance, because the first time they are 100, second time they still at 100. Next time, it's done. I'm not even gonna play or contemplate the idea of working or dealing with that person. So that is the biggest reason why I say that it's hard for sometimes people, in my case, personal, to trust somebody else.
Yeah. Preconditioned. And they've showed you that you can't trust them. If they, like Irina said, if they behave that way, believe them. How about you, Irina? What are some of the reasons you don't trust others?
Well, if they prove themselves wrong, right? From initial interaction, you cannot really know. And like I said, I always go with an open heart and say, like this person is like me, right? And then when they are showing up differently, and then I would still be like, okay, maybe this time around, like the benefit of the doubt. Okay, maybe this time around something happened. It's okay, right? It's life, right? But then I'm more cautious. I'm still trusting, but I'm cautious, right? And with the time, it's sort of like, I'm just gone. I'm not there.
Eventually done. Yeah. How about you, Bruno? What are some of the reasons you don't trust others?
I mean, there's many, but like, there's a lot of them, but like, okay. So the number one reason is like, usually your intuition doesn't lie to you, right? If you got it wrong and you said it was your intuition, it wasn't your intuition, it was your insecurities. So it's like, for me, it's like, but because in my case, right, I believe I'm a very open person, right? In the way I am, I then always believe it's my intuition. So honestly, like if I see the slightest thing that just seems weird more than once, I'm like, I don't want to be with you again. Because if it seemed like it always seemed weird before, right? And I was right. So I'm right again, right? So it's like, why am I like? There's no point in giving a second chance, right? And again, if I don't trust myself, I'm just gonna make the same mistakes again, right? So it's just like, and like for example, a very good, a big thing that people do is when they know that you don't, that there's they know that you got them, let's say, right? And you caught them. They try to make it look like you're making a big deal, so you can feel entitled and you can feel bad about yourself, right? And the moment you care, right, they control you. Now, I mean, I'm gonna put it this way: now they're your master, right? They're owning you, right? They have you by a leash, and now you feel like you owe them something more because you made a mistake, right? And that's when they're really gonna be like, now we got him or now we got it, right? And we're gonna abuse the shit out of it, right? Out of that person, right? Because then they will always have the upper hand after that, right? And they don't respect you, right? You're nothing but their pawn. And it's like you really have to be cautious about the people. Like, for example, I don't know about you guys, but like I don't have that many friends, right? I don't want a lot of friends. I have the friends that like I already had before that I grew up with, like 5-7 years. We're still together, right? As friends, we barely see each other. I think we see each other like once a year. But when we see each other, it's like we never stopped seeing each other, right? There's no awkward moments. There's nothing, right? There's just like flow, right? And yeah, I mean that's kind of the friendships that I kind of want and need in my life, you know. Yeah, I mean, like, always trust yourself, never doubt your intuition.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
never doubt your intuition, you know, like, and give yourself a chance to succeed, right?
Yeah.
Because people will always say no. Like, that's the most obvious answer is somebody saying no. If somebody says yes, that's weird, right? So, you know, it's just like, like, don't judge. Like, even if you're wrong, don't judge yourself. Like, you stood up for yourself. Like, who does that? Nobody does that nowadays. Like, the majority of people, they're just like, oh, probably I'm wrong. I'm making a big deal. I'm making a big deal in my mind. You know, maybe I'm making a big deal in my life, like with my wife or my husband. You know, like, oh, it's just me, whatever. No, it's not just you. Like, you know, you should totally face that forward, because ignoring it just makes it worse. It's like you're treating people like you're teaching people how to treat you. So if you don't trust yourself, people will act accordingly.
Yeah.
And they will just, right, they'll know, but he doesn't trust himself, or, you know, he always falls, it's fine. Oh, he always apologizes. It's fine, whatever, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll just have a conversation with him, you know, make him like, you know, make him believe this, make him believe that, you know, if I'm calm, you know, if I'm soft with him and stuff, he'll be like, oh, okay, that's fine. No, fuck off.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think that's part of why, for a lot of people, and Johnny's not alone in this, for most of humanity, trust is more treated like a light switch than anything else. But the more you build that trust in yourself, the more trust stops being an on-off switch and kind of becomes a penny, right? It just is. The trust just is. Now, that might mean that I trust you to be an asshole. I trust that about some of the people in my life. Like, I know that's going to be the reaction. There are other people I trust to be understanding and empathetic because they've taught me that. I still trust, maybe not the way they want me to, but the trust exists like a penny. And then I think of it as almost two-sided. That's why penny works so well, right? So there are two types of trust in my world. There's trust in someone's intent, and there's trust in their competence. Now, I tend to trust that everybody thinks that their intent is right. The place that we start to break trust is that their intention and their behaviors don't really always line up. And so while I trust that they think that they are doing the right thing, I also trust that they aren't, right? And then there's competence. that's a really easy place for us to rebuild. Just generally as people, we understand that other people might not know the right thing or how to do a thing. That's a competence issue and not like a values problem. And they were way more likely to share. Go, Johnny.
I just want to do a parenthesis there with that part, because the competence will let you know right away how much lack of trust that person has on them. I more often than not, now that I'm getting wiser, not older because I refuse to get old, but now that I'm getting wiser, I see people older than me, and they may have the best intentions in the world. They don't mean wrong, but their competence does not match what they're saying that they want to do. And then they come back as victims. And right away, that is a horrible mix. Horrible mix. So whenever you see somebody who's not competent in their fields, I know that the word incompetent sounds very rough for most people, but it's a definition. It's like the word ignorant. It's just a definition. They don't mean anything wrong by calling you ignorant. They're just saying that you do not know what you do not know. But this crystal generation has made it so abrasive. But back to this part, if you ever find somebody who's not competent on what they want to do or what they want to achieve, be really careful, because that is a person that is most of the time not stable. So be careful how you deal with them. But if their person is a person that is understanding and willing to learn, help them out, because that person will give you 110%, because they actually deep inside know that they're not competent, but they're seeking for somebody to help them out.
Mm-hmm. And you can build that by helping them make commitments and then achieving them. You can grow their knowledge. Odds are, if they're really up in arms about some competency level, whether it's a skill or the use of a tool or any of those things, odds are is they're not trusting themselves. And so it has literally nothing to do with you. They're up in arms because they're already dealing with trust issues on their competence, and you pulled it up and they're like, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it starts with self-trust.
Yes.
Irina, talk to me. What's that bring up for you?
You know what, as we are having the conversation, what comes to me is, trust. For me, trust more the actions than the words. Because a lot of people could promise you, la la land, but when it comes to reality, they don't deliver it.
Yeah.
So actions speak louder than words. So I always
All the
trust
time.
the actions, not just words.
You have to keep the commitment. It's great to make it, but kind of like back to your mom, you made that commitment, but then you did nothing with it. Now I know that I can't trust you to keep commitments.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Bruno, what's that bring up for you?
Well, it brings up for me like the best way to get somebody's trust is to teach them how to love. Like for example, you can teach them how to love themselves. You can give them the tips and techniques, right? Because that's on you. That's your job, right?
The self.
But but at the same time, you can trust somebody else who won't listen to the advices that they need. So like a lot of people, they ask for the advice. They're like, oh my God, I have so many problems in my life and I don't know what to do. You need to help me. And I'm like, I can't help you. Like, right? I can give myself a bit to you, right? And show you something, but I can do it for you, right? And like, if they don't trust themselves enough to even do it by themselves, right? They can only do it with somebody else or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're not gonna go very far in life, my friend.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. Like, I love what John said as well. Like, the word incompetent and whatever became a little bit more offensive than it should have nowadays. But it's
And it's
stupid
a
because
self-trust thing. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. They don't trust themselves to know the right answer. So you
Yeah.
call them out and they're already in defense mode because they can't support themselves or trust themselves, and they know that now you can't either. And now we've got a whole breakdown. Nobody likes to be nobody wants to not be trusted. I don't know a single person on this. If there's anyone out there watching and you don't want to be trusted, please find me. I would love to ask lots and lots and lots of questions. Okay. For the rest of us, we want this. It is a driving force of who we are, and it starts with ourselves. But to what everybody was just saying, while it starts with ourselves, to be able to trust others, we have to know that we can fix it. So to achieve that smart trust, you learn to trust your ability to fix, whether they keep that commitment, whether they break that commitment, whether their intent matches their behavior, whether they have the skills and tools to accomplish it. If we know that we can, then we can trust them to try and try and try and build those commitments and start making and keeping them, because we know that at the end we can just fix it.
Mhm.
For sure.
That's the one beautiful thing about humanity. There's nothing that we cannot fix.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as long as no small children die and nothing explodes, it's pretty much fixable.
Yes. The also the biggest issue is that we're set our ways. And I say we because we are all set our ways.
Yeah.
We most of the time want our way or the highway, even when we say we don't. So it's really, really tough to work with the ego that we all come with. It's
Yeah.
really, really, really important to embrace your demons from the get-go. Because in order to trust yourself, you have to know what demons you have behind you. You have to know, like, there are things that I would never, ever, ever do or have in my house because I know that in a moment of anger, I heard this from somebody. I would love to remember who I heard it from, but I can go from cool, calm, and collected to death row in less than a second.
I've been there. Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand that about yourself, you know how you react and how you do things, it's really hard for you to trust on you. That's why the whole thing that all religions and all people try to tell you, look within you, look for the light inside of you. It's exactly that. Figure who you are. Right now I'm working with Lake Worth High with a bunch of phenomenal kids. I love them. I'm teaching them how to dance. But more important to me than teaching them how to dance is teaching them tools that are going to help them grow, because it's a school that has a high index of houses with no parents, with absent parents. I mean, they're there, but they're working. They're doing their things. The kids are not supervised. Nobody cares for these kids. There was last week, it broke my heart, a kid that it was his birthday that day. We told him happy birthday, and he was surprised. He didn't even know that was his birthday, because for years and years and years, his family never said happy birthday to him. So it just pains me to see that our future, meaning the kids, are not being taught real tools. Because let's be honest, it's fantastic if you know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, because you're gonna need that to handle money.
Period.
But who the heck nowadays needs to know how to what's the value of x and what's the value of y, and then x squared equals nobody. Let's be honest, when was the last time we used all that garbage that they taught us? When are we gonna bring common sense education for kids, where we teach them how to handle their feelings, how to work with other people, how to build leadership, how to how to train themselves for the actual future instead of keep teaching them what 100 years ago was already failing. So it's really, really important for us to start, putting that little bit of work into our kids and into ourselves, because if you don't understand yourself, you cannot help others. And that's exactly how we started this podcast today.
Oh, full circle. I love that. I think that's where I'll come in round to everybody for a recap. So that's, for me, that ties it in perfectly, right? It goes back to, if I know what I know, and I know what I like, and I know what I can trust about myself, I can let somebody else have the things that they know and they like and they trust, and it's not going to affect me. But I might be able to lean on it because inevitably there's going to be gaps in my knowledge, and they'll know the things that I need to know. And if I'm supporting myself and I'm in a good place, that doesn't seem like they're taking from me. They're not taking my trust. They're not taking my knowledge. They're sharing theirs. And it makes it way easier if we link trust and support together. We see that we build trust and we build support equally, and then we're all on equal footing.
Mm-hmm. And that is the beginning of something, because the second that you don't have equal footing, somebody's looking down, and right there and then you broke all rules of leadership.
So, Irina, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I'm like really resonating with Johnny's story about the kids and what they're teaching in schools, and what it brings to me, like, not only we grow as adults, I don't know how to navigate in this beautiful life, right? Besides making money. And, what are we teaching our kids? We are just going through the same schooling system and imposing the same knowledge into them without preparing them how to live the life itself. And that's where comes the issue of trust between parents and children. Like, trust your child enough to know what they're really going through, what their feelings are, and trust your child with the choices that they are making in their lives. And that's like one of the biggest trusts that me as a parent, I was developing, because I was more like a helicopter parent. I had to be like involved in everything and to be like everywhere. Once I let go of like my daughter, and she appreciated me more, and there was like more trust, like knowing that she knows what she's doing, and just like Kara said, rather than getting overwhelmed with all I have to be in charge of myself and also everybody else around, I just allow them to be in charge of themselves.
Yes. Bruno, wrap us up. What are your thoughts?
Belief. Like, nobody teaches you how to believe, even if you're not believing in yourself. People give you a holy book and they're like, believe that. Understand that, bro. Understand that, bro. Understand all that. You have to understand. Not only you have to understand what it means, you have to understand all those words that we don't even use anymore. Okay. And yeah, Johnny's gonna say something.
No, I just want to interrupt you, because to me, please, I'm not putting down anybody's faith. Let's start with that. But to me, it's hilarious how these priests and pastors, etc., they tell you to your face that they're interpreting the word of God, because nobody understands the word of God. Yet, you, like Bruno said, you have to understand it. You have to carry that in your heart. They don't understand it, and they suspect that you should know it. Let's get serious, people.
Yeah. And that kind of wraps us up to where everybody was, right? So if you want to be confident in trusting yourself, it starts by supporting yourself. And that allows you to believe other people when they show you what you can trust in them. And the trust never goes away. But how you leverage it might. You may trust them to be untrustworthy. And the only way to fix that is to make new commitments and keep them. That seems to be a spot where, not unlike our intention to our behavior, we make the commitment, but that follow through though. Fortune's in the follow-up, right? So that is support and trust, and how they are inevitably linked, especially in leadership, but just in life. If you want to have more trust in your life, you also need more support for the things that you're great at and the things maybe you're not. Anybody have any final thoughts?
I think you have covered everything.
You guys are amazing. Thank you. And thank you, everyone watching.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Till next Thursday. Love you all. Bye.